try to sleep yourself.
I tried, yes, sir.
And
They slept better than I did.
let's face it, your house is a mess. It's a wreck.
Yes, sir.
Why was that?
I'm not a great person at keeping things clean, and having 3 boys, that contributed. I tried to get their help cleaning up as much as I could, but I just didn't have time or the energy. With the lack of sleep and everything else going on, I barely functioned.
Okay. And that message well, strike that, leave that. Did you depend, I asked you, did you depend on what Paul was telling you?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, did Paul ever, for lack of a better term, sound the alarm?
Not that I was aware of, no, sir.
Okay. Do you, that one message, was that it?
That was it. That's the only thing I got from Paul that ever had any concern.
With the one little pictures in it? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And okay, let's talk about some other stuff here. Once you discovered that Timothy had passed, and once the police get there, do you tell them the truth?
No. I was so freaked out. I'm sorry. Honestly, I've got one. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Why didn't you tell them the truth? Why were you so freaked?
I don't remember what my line of thinking was at the time. I was so I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Were you tired at that point?
I was exhausted. The night before he passed, I had less than an hour of sleep.
Were you frightened at that point?
Absolutely. I just lost my son.
You need a moment?
I'm okay.
Okay. Were you expecting? Was this outcome expected by you?
Absolutely not. No.
So would it be safe to say you were surprised?
I was shocked.
Were you in disbelief initially?
Yes, absolutely.
We've got there's an indication that it took you a while to call the police. In fact, you told Paul not to, according to Paul's testimony. Why did it take you so long? He said 18 minutes out. Why did it take you so long to call the police?
I have no idea, honestly. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. It was surreal. Like you don't even know what's going on. Time slowed down and I didn't know what was going on.
When was the first time you found out it took 18 minutes to call the police?
Was it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, it was within the last few days.
Okay.
That's the first time.
Do you remember who was testifying when you found out? It doesn't matter.
I think we discussed it at a meeting on Monday. Was it Monday?
Okay.
I think
It
so.
doesn't matter.
And I heard 14 minutes initially, and then the first time I heard 18 minutes was when Paul said it yesterday.
Do you remember? How clear is your memory of your time and from the time you found Timothy and he had passed, and to the time you finished talking to the police that day?
It's spotty.
Okay. The first officer said that you were distraught. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
He said that you were crying. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember telling the police that you pulled Timothy from his bunk bed when you found him in distress?
I remember saying something like that, yes, sir.
Was that true?
No, sir.
Do you remember providing CPR for Timothy?
Yes, I do.
When did you stop that?
When the pro-med people walked down into the basement. I had asked them to take over, and they didn't take over right away, but they said I had to leave the area.
Okay. Let's do the hard stuff here. Jury's seen pictures of Timothy. We've all seen pictures of Timothy at the time of his death. How could you not know he was that ill? How could you not know?
Honestly, I was barely functioning. I missed a lot. I hate it because, I mean, I feel like a complete failure, but there was things that I just didn't see. There was a lot that I didn't see, unfortunately.
In those texts, you instruct Paul to make sure he's getting enough calories, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
You had a restricted diet, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you instructed Paul to make sure he's getting calories.
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you rely on that?
Absolutely.
Paul says he called the police ultimately. Who called the police?
I called 911. It was on my phone. I'm sure you can pull the call and find out where it's from.
Did you intend to hurt Timothy?
No, never.
Did you know he was being hurt?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
The tactics that you use to first of all, the tactics that you use to discipline Timothy, did they seem extreme or outrageous to you at the time?
No.
Timothy remained in, you'll admit the bath was not warm on the day he died. It was a cold bath.
Correct, the day
Okay.
before.
It wasn't an ice bath though, correct?
I
Far as
wasn't,
you know.
from the text, it looks like he did, but that wasn't what was said to do.
Okay,
Paul chose to do the ice on his own, if you look at the text.
okay. So, there's testimony that you remained in that tub for hours. Were you aware of that?
No, I didn't realize he was in the tub, no.
When you came home, you didn't realize he was in the tub till you
I
got
did, when I got home, I actually ran him a warm bath when I got home,
Okay. Where?
in the tub downstairs.
Okay, so once you found him in the tub, what did you, explain the dream what you're talking about.
Well, I had to get Paul to work, and then I came home, and my understanding, at least, was that when Paul had splashed water, he had splashed it on his face only. That's what I understood. So I didn't realize he was still there. And so when I got home, I was like, wait a second, what the? So I decided to go ahead and run a warm bath just to.
There's a bunch of stuff in there talk about make sure he doesn't sleep, make sure he doesn't sleep. What's that about?
There was a couple of situations where Timothy actually intentionally kept everybody in the house awake. He would intentionally set off the motion sensors. He would make noise. With the house being a bi-level, you could hear a lot from the downstairs. But he intentionally kept everybody awake.
Okay.
And so that was, okay, if you're going to keep us awake, then you have to stay awake.
Okay. So here's my question. If he slept all day, what would he do all night?
Oh, he'd be up all night. You had to get him up no later than about 10 in the morning, or he was up all night long.
Okay. There's a door that has a dent in it that we still have an exhibit of. Okay. And you heard Paul testify that he did that.
Yes.
What is your recollection of that incident?
What I remember is I remember hearing Paul yell from his room, because his room was directly below the master bedroom. And then I pulled up I wasn't asleep, so I pulled up the main camera in the basement area, and I see Paul come out and kick that door, and I went to hit the button. He was screaming at Timothy while it happened, and I hit the two-way talk button on the camera and said, "Hey, what the heck? Go back to bed." And I actually had to physically go downstairs and get him away from the door and send him to bed.
Was in the text on occasion, Paul would have say things that suggest aggressions towards Timothy on occasion. Did you know any other circumstances other than what's in those situations in the text?
Oh, absolutely. He never displayed that towards my youngest. He never displayed that towards my husband when he was still at home, or myself. He would get aggressive when he was playing games. He would get really angry. He had some serious anger issues. And then when Timothy moved up, and Timothy did push his buttons some, but he never reacted well. I mean, he just overreacted to Timothy every time. He hardly ever reacted rationally to Timothy.
Okay. And so, other than what he was texting you, and other than what you could see when you weren't working at your job, you don't have firsthand information as to what's going on between Paul and Timothy. Is that correct?
No, I asked my little guy occasionally, but Timothy never told me anything that was going on.
Okay.
So I asked just because if I had texted Paul and he seemed upset, then I would get home and, hey, is everything okay? And my little guy, honestly, I don't remember him ever saying that there was an issue. He said, yeah, Paul got mad, but that was it. He never said anything happened.
Okay. One moment, please. What was your intent when you would administer punishments to Timothy?
To get him to behave.
Was it ever your intent to harm him?
No, absolutely not. No, the locks on the fridge and freezer, they're actually, he scared the heck out of me after my husband's stroke. And that's what brought those two on.
Okay.
I can tell you what happened.
What was the incident, and then what was the incident that caused you to put locks on the fridge?
I had just purchased a 2-pound bag of frozen chicken nuggets and put it in the freezer. And overnight, I guess he got around the motion sensors. But the next day, it was a weekend, and the next day I went to, little man asked for some chicken nuggets. And I went to get them, and the bag was empty in the freezer. And I was like, what? We hadn't touched it. And so I started asking, and at first Timothy lied to me. He said he didn't touch it. And then I went and checked with little man and with Paul, and nobody had touched so I went back because I had issues with both Paul and Timothy lying to me a lot. So I went back to Timothy. I said, nobody else has touched this. He said, I ate them. I said, okay, did you cook them? He said, no, he ate the whole 2-pound bag frozen,
Okay.
uncooked chicken.
All right. Were you concerned about his health and getting into and eating frozen food?
Yes, and he ate, there was a time where he ate uncooked bacon out of the fridge before the chicken nugget incident. He ate a whole pound of uncooked ground beef at one point. This was all after the stroke when there was less people to keep an eye on.
Did it occur to you he's doing those things because he's hungry? He's starving?
No, there was plenty of food. There was no issues. He never told me he was hungry at the time when these incidents happened.
Okay. So, fast forward. You offer him 2 pizza rolls if he does a certain thing. And you say, I don't care if they're frozen when you give them to him. If you're concerned about him eating frozen food, why would you offer him 2 frozen pizza rolls?
Because the chicken was uncooked and it's dangerous. I had a panic attack when he did the chicken. It was terrifying. I broke down completely.
So the nuggets were uncooked chicken?
Yes, it's uncooked chicken. That could have killed him.
Okay.
It freaked me out.
But the pizza rolls were at least cooked?
Yes, that
Even
was
if they
just,
were
you
frozen.
reheated them.
Okay. He was, and I'll give you one more, he was rail thin. How did you not notice?
I wish I hadn't answered that. Part of it, he actually, from the time of the stroke, because my husband's stroke was January 3rd of 2022, so most of this was cold weather. Part of it was he wore big clothes, he wore hoodies. The clothes that were sent to him from his dad and stepmom, most of the pants didn't fit him well to begin with. And I had gotten him a couple of pairs of jeans, but I couldn't afford a lot. And he also, once the stroke happened, he got really reclusive. He didn't want, and I had to force him, for a while when he was doing his homeschooling, he would do it on his tablet. And then I found out I tried to lock the tablet down, but he was doing other stuff on his tablet when he was supposed to be doing schoolwork. So I started the curriculum that he was on. You could print the assignments and the questions. So I started printing that. And literally, he'd be like, just stick it on the stairs. And he'd give me the other assignments. I would grade them and stick them and put them into the program. But he didn't want anything to do with me, hardly at all.
Yeah, but when you put your arms around him to hug your son.
He didn't want hugged. He was 15. He didn't want me.
And he was autistic, correct?
He was high functioning.
Okay.
But most of the autism came with interactions with other people. He struggled there.
Okay. So it wasn't, was it just you he didn't want touching, or was there anybody, he didn't want anybody else?
He didn't want Gabriel, sorry, he didn't want little man hugging him either.
Okay. What about Paul? Do you ever see
They
him?
never offered to hug each other.
Thank you.
No.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Roberts, how long do you anticipate your?
Oh, I'm thinking at least an hour and a half, Judge, so.
Okay, well, it's a little early before lunch. I think it's a natural time to take a break unless you prefer to start now,
No,
Mr.
actually,
Roberts.
there's an issue I think that I'd like to address first. Might cut a small chunk of that out, but it's going to be quite extensive. So I agree that
Okay.
it makes
All right.
sense to break now and maybe come back early if we can.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break a little early for lunch. You'll be allowed to leave the jury room. You can go wherever you want for lunch. I'd ask you to please wear your badges to and from your vehicles. That way people know that you're a juror. Please don't talk to anybody. Please don't look at any social media, news reports, articles online. Again, same applies. We have to make sure we have an unbiased panel. We'll be back here. I'm going to have you back. We have some matters to attend to at 1 o'clock. I'll have you back here at 1:15, hopefully for a 1:30 start. So I'll have the attorneys back here at the same time. So thank you. We're taking a recess. So please rise.
Motions now, I can accept them.
No, just
Hang on.
you just hang on to them. Yeah. All right, may be seated. Reflect the jury. In the jury room. Go ahead, Mr. Roberts.
Thanks, Judge. I guess the only issue I would like some clarity or direction from the court on is this. I intend to ask Ms. Vander Ark questions, and this is tipping hand a little bit, I understand that, but I think it's necessary to get some clarity from the court. I intend to ask her some questions about why she didn't file any legal documentation to get custody of Timothy first.
Should a convicted serial killer ever be released from prison? It's a vexing question. Most people would say no, but even still, it's one Victorian authorities have to.
Why she didn't file any legal documentation to get custody of Timothy first.
Should a convicted serial killer
Why she didn't file any legal documentation